There's some flirtations going on between Davante Adams and the Jets, and Jets players and Davante Adams. We discuss plus what could a Davante Adams trade actually look like between the Las Vegas Raiders and the New York Jets? Is it possible? Could it happen? Let's get into it.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever seen.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Good morning, what's poppin', everybody? My name is Paul Weston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video program live every single day at 7:30. It's a video program, but if you prefer the audio only, we also have that available wherever you get your podcast, baby. Simply search for Boy Green Daily. Oh, yeah, baby. We're getting hot and heavy on this Davante Adams New York Jets stuff, and we're going to give you every layer of it, and then we're going to break down the possibilities and what it could look like and all that jazz. So I'm very much looking forward to what that could potentially bring here. So let's go through the pieces. Okay, let's go through the pieces. Some people want Davante Adams. Some people do not want Davante Adams. And the reason why some Jet fans I've heard do not want Davante Adams is, of course, he's a member of the Las Vegas Raiders, and it would require a trade to get him from point A to point B, to get him from the Raiders to the New York Jets. So it would cost some level of draft compensation. We will discuss today what that potentially could look like. I do want to stop the narrative that is out there that some Jet fans are saying one of the reasons they don't want Davante Adams is because he's old. People, come on, man. This can't be a real thing, but I want to throw this up on the screen. Mo Moten was talking about this, my good buddy. Jet fans coming to grips that they're not getting Davante Adams, so instead they're going to say he's washed up to cope with reality. And I was tagged by Mo Moten. I will tell you this. If the Jets do not get Davante Adams, which, by the way, is possible, a trade is required to make this deal happen between the Jets and Raiders, and a lot of other teams, I imagine, are interested. You have to satisfy the Raiders, and does Davante want to be moved? There's a lot of pieces, so there's a chance that this does not happen. I fully accept that from the beginning. But I'll tell you, if this trade does not happen, the way I will be coping is not saying Davante Adams was old and washed anyway. That won't be happening. You won't be hearing that from these lips, because while Davante Adams is getting older, naturally, it happens, okay? He's 31 years of age. He just turned 31 on Christmas Eve. But the statistics speak for themselves. Even in a quote-unquote down year, he had 103 catches, 1,100 yards, and 8 touchdowns. I mean, come on, people. And the three seasons prior to that, outside of this crappy year with the Raiders, he had 1,300 yards, 1,500 yards, 1,500 yards. His catches were 115, 123, 100, and the touchdowns were 18, 11, and 14. This 8-touchdown campaign he just had was only the second season he did not have double-digit touchdowns since 2016, or 2015, rather, because here are his touchdowns. Since 2016, 12, 10, 13, 5, 18, 11, 14, 8. I mean, come on, people. He ain't washed. He ain't old. And he has the built-in chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. So there's a lot of benefits to the Davante Adams trade, but it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you some change, and we will discuss the exact change that it will eventually cost the New York Jets. But first, let's get into the flirtation. Okay, let's get into the flirtation if we can, and we'll start here. So Thomas Morstead, he's joined our show. He already told people publicly, but he also said it on our show, that Thomas Morstead said this was the final year he was wearing number 5 with the Jets because he was handing it off to Garrett Wilson. And he literally handed it off, saying this on Twitter this week. Honored to pass number 5 to GW. And he's handing off the jersey. Garrett Wilson going back. He's going from 17 to 5. 5 is old college number, which opens up number 17. You want to know who liked this post? Scroll up. Davante Adams. He liked that Garrett Wilson was getting number 5 and thus 17 was becoming open. Interesting flirtation from Davante Adams. Interesting. Very interesting. Then we go to the next phase here. Okay, the next phase. So Davante Adams liking that stuff Jets-wise. You want to know who else likes the possibility of Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams together? What about Garrett Wilson? I tweeted this out. Number 17, Davante Adams. Number 5, Garrett Wilson's new number, equals the best wide receiver duo in the NFL in 2024. There was 455 likes on this post. One of those likes, Garrett Wilson. Okay, some flirtation back. Hey, like, send that note across the room, baby. He is interested. And, on the Pat McAfee show, Aaron Rodgers can't straight out say, hey, we're talking to Davante. We're trying to trade for him. We're trying to bring him over, because that's tampering. Players can't do that. They've been very stringent on what that could look like. But on the Pat McAfee show, Aaron Rodgers saying, quote, love me some Davante. I bet you do, Aaron Rodgers. I bet you do, young man. Now, here's the one thing that I guess we have to highlight in the middle of all this crazy flirtation. We'll get into what a trade could look like in just a second. Mo Moton, again, my guy from Bleacher Report, the Raiders guy, he'll be on eventually when Davante Adams is traded to the Jets so he can break it down and cry about it. But he said this, people are really getting hyped, freaking out about Davante Adams' liked post. Oh, how quickly people forget that Davante Adams is a first-team All-Pro wide receiver and a first-team All-Troll. Make sure you let your fellow Jet fans know. Boy Green 25. Here was a quote from Davante Adams. When asked about if he was serious about house hunting for Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams said, the social media trolling, I'm first-team All-Troll, so don't take none of that too serious, but I would love to have that, and obviously that would be a dream scenario, and one that I'm very familiar with, but anything you see on Twitter, that's not a tell of anything, that's just wishful thinking. Now, I'm going to be honest. Davante can say what he wants. We are going to lose our crap if Davante comes here, regardless of this trolling business, liking this or liking that. The fact of the matter is he liked it, baby, and we're going to lose our minds. That's just the facts of the matter. 100% the facts of the matter. So, okay, let's get into the trade. Now, it's complicated, as is any trade. It's complicated because, as I just mentioned, Davante Adams, is 31 years of age. He is 31 years of age, so he's getting older, okay? But I still think he's got plenty left in the tank. But he is getting older. That's a fact of the matter. It's a true statement that he's getting older, and we just have to accept that as part of the shish kebab of potentially bringing him in here. That he is an older player. And here's the other thing: what is the proper value for Davante Adams? Because when he was originally acquired by the Las Vegas Raiders, it cost them a first and a second round draft choice. Okay, that's what it cost them. It cost them the Raiders a first and a second round draft choice to trade him from the Green Bay Packers. Now he is older. I think that factors into the price. Why would the Jets? Because a lot of Raiders fans have asked for a first and a second round pick. And I say, why would the Jets have to pay the same price that the Raiders paid for a player who is older? Now, again, I still think he has a lot left in the tank, but why would we pay the same price? That just doesn't make any sense. So, to be honest, I do not, under any circumstance, want to give up that price. That is not on my bag. That is not something I want to entertain. So put the first and second aside. Now let's get to the brass tacks. The Jets have the 10th overall pick. It's now final. The Jets have the 10th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. I'm not willing to give up the 10th overall pick for Davante Adams. And Raiders fans will be like, well, I guess we don't have a trade then. But no, I'm not giving up a first, and we don't have a second because of the Aaron Rodgers trade. Here was a trade offer that Bleacher Report threw out there. A 2025 second, so not this year upcoming second, the following year, and this year's third-round pick for Davante Adams. if the Raiders are willing to accept that, let's talk some business. A second and a third. A second next year. A third this year. Okay, let's roll. That's something I would be willing to entertain. Now, people would say, why would the Raiders do this? Well, I think Davante Adams may have to do the same thing Aaron Rodgers did by saying he intends to play for the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers in some back channels goes, wink, wink, hey, we'd love to have you here. The Jets have already stated publicly, basically, that they are going to aggressively pursue Davante Adams. They had the Adam Schefter report that came out like with 2 or 3 weeks left in the season. We're going to chase Davante Adams. Why they made that a public discourse, I'm not quite certain, but nonetheless, they've made it very clear that they will aggressively pursue Davante Adams. And one trade, like I said, this one's from Bleacher Report, a 2025 second and a 2024 third. Sign me up. I would do that in a heartbeat. There's also been some people that have floated some other possibilities. Again, we'll have a full episode on Bryce Huff that will probably come this week. We will see. There's a chance that episode comes tomorrow, but TBD on that. We'll see with news because the Keith Carter thing, that thing could inspire some takes, but we'll see. So that's possible as well. But one other possibility that I've kind of heard floated out there. Again, we'll have a full episode on Bryce Huff, but what about a Bryce Huff Davante Adams trade? So Bryce Huff, in a perfect world, I'd like to keep him. Homegrown talent, 25 years old, primo position, checks off all the boxes to want to be kept. But if for some reason he doesn't want to stay here, or the Jets aren't willing to go to his money bag, which I don't know what it is, we will learn more about that today. I got a new episode dropping later today with a very special guest, former NFL GM Randy Mueller. We'll be talking about the Bryce Huff thing from his general manager perspective. So more on that later. But if the Jets aren't willing to go to his price, could the Jets do this? Trade Bryce Huff straight up. Bryce Huff, Davante Adams. Bryce Huff obviously isn't nearly as proven of a player as Davante, but he's 25, and he's one of the most efficient pass rushers in the NFL. And the Raiders get something that they can use immediately, and the Jets get Davante Adams, and they keep all their picks, and then they can use their picks for the chase. That's another compelling. I'm not sure. I'd have to hear from Mo Moten or something how close this is. How close it is to having it. Ty Butler says, Jets have too many needs to trade for and better off spending the money in free agency. Here's my fear as Ty Butler sends that in. And again, we'll have Ty Butler on every Sunday during the offseason through the Super Bowl. Here's the thing that I want to throw out there. There's a chance that all the dreams that you guys have of T. Higgins, Mike Evans, and Michael Pittman Jr., what if all those guys get franchise tagged? That's possible. That is on the table. I hope not, but those three are possible. If those guys all get franchise tag, all of a sudden we shift our dreams and expectations. If you're putting Davante Adams on the shelf to, Brandon Cooks, OBJ, the list changes dramatically. If some of those guys get franchise tag, what if all of those guys get franchise tag? All of a sudden, if the Jets truly, legitimately want a strong number 2 or number 3 option for this passing game, probably both, quite frankly, boy, the narrative shifts pretty quickly. That's why I'm saying people don't cast away this Davante Adams thing. I get it. In theory, what Ty Butler says on Twitter is correct. What he says on the Twitter sphere is correct, that you'd much rather just spend a bag of money than give up assets that can also help the team. I agree with that in theory, but what if there's no one to spend it on? Then you're just overpaying. You get an Alan Lazard. That's what happens. You get 4 years, $44 million of Alan Lazard. That's what happens when you go, well, we got the money. Here we go. He was the highest paid free agent wide receiver this past year. Not great so far. I think he's going to be back on the team, but hopefully he's in a more comfortable position, a little low on the depth chart, maybe wide receiver 3, maybe wide receiver 4, a little lower. But the Aaron Rodgers relationship, I'm sure they're going to try to run that back. Can't be worse than it was last year. That's for sure. I'm sure maybe they'll find a way, but can't be worse than last year. So there's my point is that there's a chance that a lot of those guys gets tagged, and all of a sudden the narrative changes on who's available at wide receiver. That's why I'm saying don't cast aside the Davante Adams thing too quickly. So 2 possible options, and then we'll get into all these questions we have in here, that you could go Bryce Huff, could be a straight swap. That's possible. I'm not sure how either side feels about that. I'll have to get a Raiders guy on the show and say, this, and then they could say, go kick rocks. They could say, that's kind of interesting, or what? I don't know. Even me as a Jets fan, I'm not sure. It's kind of intriguing from the standpoint I don't give up any picks, but not really sure because I want to keep Bryce Huff, but that's neither here nor there. And the other option from Bleacher Report, 2nd-round pick next year, 3rd-round pick this year. There was the proposal from Bleacher Report on a possible trade. All right, let's get into some of your questions and comments here. Good morning, everybody. Okay, yeah, so I had a video drop, and we're going to have a variety of videos. We have obviously the live shows with me right now, the Woody show. We're going to have some other shows, and then every once in a while, I'll drop a take video, which is not live. It's just me recording it and boop, uploading it. And the one I uploaded last night was about the Jets pursuing Odell Beckham Jr., and there's an article there that you guys can check out. I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. is the same Odell Beckham Jr. that did the one-handed catch with the Giants. I think we can all understand that's not the case. And he's in the same age range as all these, like Mike Evans, he's 30-31, OBJ's 30-31, like all these guys, Davante, all these guys are kind of in the same range. The only one who's kind of different is like T. Higgins. He's like 24 years old, so super young, and I get why people want him. But he's a little inconsistent catching the football. But hey, beggars can't be choosers. But I dropped a video about why the Jets. Well, the ESPN analyst predicted the Jets will sign OBJ, but I used it as a way to say that, but also to talk about it. The Jets aggressively pursued OBJ last year. Why wouldn't they do it again? That's my question. And I get it. He's had a lackluster year with Baltimore. It's I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it's 35 catches, 565 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Paltry numbers. But the paltry numbers should lead to a more reasonable contract. If you could get OBJ, maybe not as your bona fide number 2, but your 3, okay, that should help the entire room. I still think OBJ has some juice left in the can. And again, of signing Cooks, who's washed up. Dalvin Cook, by the way, because I assume that's who you're talking about. I don't think Dalvin Cook is washed up. I think the Jets used him wildly inaccurately. Like, he'd get 2 or 3 carries. Okay, give us the best Dalvin Cook. That's hard. Heat up cold turkey on the sideline. Like, I think he'll show something with Baltimore. Maybe I'll be wrong in these playoffs. We'll see. We'll see how much run they actually give him, but I think he's going to surprise some people. So I don't think he's washed up. But OBJ, I'm not saying you're paying for a crazy, 18 million, 15 million you got last year with Baltimore. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying with that crappy year, relatively speaking, statistically, he should come at a lower price. And he wants to play with Aaron. Aaron wants to play with him. Let's make it happen. That's what I'm saying. Plus, if all these guys get tagged, you guys are going to be back on my OBJ train pretty quickly. Matthias says no OBJ, Paul. I know people do not want it, but I do, for whatever that's worth. All right. Yep. Sergeant CVO said it as well. Tag and trade Huff for Adams. That could work. We might even get a pick with that. That's it. Because, I'm going to be honest, I don't know which side wins. I'm not playing coy here. I honestly don't know if the Jets win that or the Raiders win that, or do we get a pick with it or what. But that'd be great. Obviously, we're taking on a lot of contract from Davante, and they would be paying him. But, we'll see. We'll see. But I think no matter what, you got to tag Bryce Huff. We'll talk about that in more detail later. Phil says, I would take any of the top receivers, Adams, Higgins, Evans. Of course, I'm really not picky. Pittman Jr. as well. I think there are tiers to this. I don't think they're all considered in the same tier, but, Higgins is younger. So you get a guy coming off his rookie contract. That to me is really intriguing. Davante, for all the reasons we said, he has a built-in chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. He's proven he is a superstar. Evans has been really good regardless of his quarterback. That part of it really intrigues me as well. Pittman is more underrated. He doesn't get the same love as any of these other receivers, but he's a really solid guy too. I wanted him in that draft. We have a comment in here on YouTube. Keith Carter should be fired today. Yeah, in case you guys missed it, there's some Keith Carter buzz going on social media overnight. Taylor Lewan, the longtime Tennessee Titans tackle, has been adamant before that he does not like Keith Carter, and that came back up on Instagram because Mike Vrabel was surprisingly fired, and he said, I love Vrabel, can't believe he was fired, and then he kind of took a pot shot at Keith Carter that he did not enjoy him as a coach. Mekhi Becton replied to the Instagram post saying, yeah, that part's true. He was jumping on the bandwagon. Bryce Hall quote tweeted it with some laughing emojis about the Keith Carter shot. So, Salah said that he's coming back and he loves him and said he did a nice job and stuff. Boy, maybe that's one that they change. But that would look. I mean, I think Jet fans would be satisfied if they get the result they want, which is Keith Carter not coming back. But boy, that would look bad if Keith Carter's a really good guy. Yeah, he's solid. And then this kind of stuff happens and actually, he's fired. That would make them look like a clown organization. But again, if it leads to Keith Carter getting removed, maybe that's still for the best. But oh boy, yeah, that stuff is bubbling. Matthias, I don't think we'd have to give up a first for Adams. I don't think so either because of the age and the contract and everything else. And again, he has had production, obviously. But, I don't think so, but we'll see ultimately, I suppose. Go back on YouTube. AR wants to play for the next 2 or 3 years, which I'm all about, baby. Sign me up. Give me Aaron Rodgers, and then we'll figure it out after that. I'm not thinking about 2027, 2028, the future from that perspective. I'm all in right now. Let's see where it goes. Matthias, how about a 4th and a 2 next year? I'm copacetic to that. 3rd this year, 2nd next year, 4th this year, 2nd next year. I'm willing to negotiate. I'm willing to chat. I'm willing to have a little conversation about it. Chris on Facebook. Q, question. Do you think the Raiders would accept trading the 14th pick in the draft and Adams for the Jets' 10th pick? I think if Las Vegas were to draft up to 10, it would cost perhaps a 3rd or 2nd round pick. Yeah, if we look at the draft value chart, that is around the value. I don't have the numbers in front of me to do that live here on the show. That may take a few minutes, but let me see if I can do that real quick. NFL draft value chart. Okay, let's see if we could do this real quick for you. Value chart. There it is. All right, the 2024 version. All right, let me get my glasses. I'm going to get my reading glasses out. Okay, the 10th overall pick is worth 1,300 points. The Vegas pick at 13. They're actually at 13, if this is correct in front of me, not 14. According to the draft value chart. I'll have to see like a mock draft real quick. Now we're getting deep here, I suppose. But let's see, is this that won't be updated? Yeah. So anywho, we'll assume the NFL draft value chart is right here. It has the Vegas at 13th. So that is a 250 point difference, which is actually that's a high 3rd round pick difference. But even if they were at the 14th overall pick, which is 1,100, that would be a 200 point difference, and that also or 300 point. Let's see. Yeah, that's still a 3rd round pick value, which you said 2nd or 3rd perhaps. Yeah, it's a 3rd round value just for that swap. So, yeah, sure, that's another creative way. Obviously, the Jets and Packers did that for that trade. So that's possible as well. Draft value chart. Yeah, it's like around 200-300 points, which would be right in that 3rd round range. Chris on Twitter. Good morning. Just need my guy Morstead to sign that contract. Greg the Leg and Hardy too. Yeah, all those guys are free agents. I advocate for this too, Chris. Great comments. They need to bring back everybody. Morstead told me on our show, he's joined us several times this year. Very, very happy for him to have joined us so many times. He said he'd love to come back, but sometimes he thinks that like the feeling's mutual and then it's not in his career, that he thought he was coming back and they didn't. So, he's like, the proof will be in the pudding, I guess. So Morstead, Greg the Lake Hardy, bring them all back. Yeah, let's make the chase. Higgins would be a nice piece. I agree. Let's see if he reaches the open market. We take a 3rd 2024 or 2025 swap 1st round pick in 2024. Well, okay. Wait, we take a 3rd? Took a 3rd and swap 1st round pick in 24. Jesus, that's aggressive. That might be a little too much for me, Chi-Town Raider, but I'll get back to you. I'll let that offer sit on my desk, and then we'll get back to here. Sergeant CVO says, whenever they leak the aggressively pursuing someone, it makes me think it's a lie. I'm not sure how you read that. I just think they're making their intentions very clear, but I don't get the benefit of making the intentions very clear. I guess that's my point, is that I don't think it's a lie. Why, like if Adam Schefter got that nugget and it's a complete lie, what would be the benefit of lying? That's what I do. I'm a big Game of Thrones guy. And Peter Baelish, he talks about in the show, when you're trying to figure out your opponent, you try to figure out when they were making a move, what is the reason that they would make this move in the benefit, and what is the reason they wouldn't for the negative? Like for every decision, that should help you fully analyze it. And I butchered that quote, I'm sure, but that's basically the gist, is to figure out what your opponent's next move is think about the best possible case scenario, the worst possible case. So there's no benefit for the Jets to fake lie and throw a weird smokescreen on Adams for what? It's a trade. It's not a free agent. So that part seems weird to me. So I buy it, but I just don't get the benefit of doing it. That's possible. Now that's a possible move. You get Adams and sign OBJ, then you get a couple receivers. Yeah, you could go offensive line of the first few picks. Absolutely. That makes it a little bit different. Patrick, that's a good point here on YouTube. Bring it in that comment. We got William here. Would hate to lose Huff, but if we could get Adams for him, I would be fine with that, which, again, I think is a possibility. Phil, I guess OBJ is better than Lazard. You're welcome. Yep, there you go. And he'll be a lot cheaper. He ain't costing $44 million. Matthias says, this is an important year for the staff. Tag and trade Huff for a second-round pick. Yeah, that's possible, too. I think they could get second or a little bit of change. A little bit of change for that. Matthias, he should be gone, but Sala likes him. It's like the Giants with their defense coordinator, his guy, but Wink Martindale's getting fired, so, or leaving mutually, whatever the rule is. But Raiders fan here. We would do it for a third in 2024 or a 2025 second and a swap of first round. So one or the other. Okay, now that's more realistic than getting both, a third or second. I'd probably give you the third, honestly, because I value the second more. And then a swap of the first. Now we're talking. Okay. I'll get back to you on that. That's a nice, another Raiders offer on the table for the trade. Let's see. Let's finish off the last couple comments here. Shane on YouTube was talking about the Keith Carter thing and being too harsh. I heard as soon as Carter came in, I did homework. I reached out to Tennessee people, and they told me like he is a militaristic guy, is how he was described to me. And some people are going to like him, some people are going to hate him. It seems like, at least publicly anyway, a lot of people hate him. Whether Becton, Hall, some of these guys that came out, it does not sound bueno. But hey, maybe some guys like him, but they're not being very outward with their comments about it. William, do you think Zach Kuntz, will develop into a good tight end? Too early to say. Super talented. We saw nothing this year, and I don't think we'll see anything next year because so you're going to have Tyler Conklin, you're going to have Jeremy Ruckert, and there's a chance the Jets draft another tight end. So he may just be a forever developmental guy, a Kenny Yeboah, basically, in the practice squad forever until he develops into something worth a damn. So, yeah, too early to tell. Matthias says at most a third this year if we get a 2 for Huff and a fourth next season. Okay, interesting. And finally, let's wrap up here. Wink is leaving because they fired his guy, Paul. Yeah, apparently they're holding his rights. They will only let him go to a certain place. There was a Heavy on Giants article from The Athletic. So there's some weirdness happening with that Wink situation. They fired his guy so he would resign instead of them having to fire him, because apparently if they fired him, he could go to whatever team they wanted, like maybe the Eagles, which they don't want to get dunked on, apparently. So apparently, they're forcing him to resign so he will then go to the place they want him to go. So very questionable, weird situation there. Anywho, everybody, thanks for joining me for another Boy Green Daily. Make sure you guys please like the video, hit subscribe. It only takes a few seconds for all the people that are watching live or after the fact. Makes a huge difference and helps this channel grow. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys do that. Check out all the videos on the channel. Again, we got the LBJ one on the channel from last night. And like I said, coming up later today, Randy Mueller, NFL General Manager, will be joining us, former NFL General Manager. And we're going to get a jump start on the Jets offseason to come. Front office view back. I know all you Jet fans really love that. So it's a front office view reunion tour, basically. And we're going to preview some of the big Jets decisions they have to make this offseason and hear it from Randy to see what he would do if he's in that. Matthias asked what time. It's looking like 3 o'clock, and I believe that will be live, Matthias. So 3 o'clock. Later today, Randy Mueller, front office view. That's actually the same time it used to be, but here on a Wednesday. So stay tuned. Randy Mueller, that should be live on the show. We shouldn't have to pre-record that. So fingers crossed, hoping for that. And we'll see you guys later. Take care. God